Flanagan Family Reunion. I'll be brief. There's no better way of starting off tonight's celebration than with a song. So please welcome Greg Engel. I don't know if I'll need the mic. Flanagan Family Reunion. Wow, great to see everybody here. I did want to, before we go too far along the program, make sure everybody knew who was sitting up here at the front table, because I think it's really important as the evening goes along. And I'm going to just pass the microphone along and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Tom.
That's Tom.
I'm Lee, and I'm with Tom. And everybody else up here.
John. Open the doors.
Kathy, the youngest one. Woo! You go ahead. Okay, I'm Teresa. I'm Eileen.
Hey, with that, I'd like to introduce one of the coordinators for tonight's great event and the chair of the Michael Flanagan Foundation, the daughter of Ellen and Vince, granddaughter of Kathleen and Michael, Eileen.
Hi everybody, it's great to be here tonight, and I thought I was going to talk at 6 o'clock. I just love getting in front of a crowd. I'm like the number one person to pick to be up here, absolutely. And everybody else here, you know, I know you're all like shy, but I'm like super outgoing. So I'm the perfect person for this. But I did want to tell you a little bit about this sheet, the Michael Flanagan Irish Music Heritage Incorporated, because I hope you all got one, and if not, I passed them around like teachers on the paper, on the tables, because we are now official. We're a charitable, nonprofit organization, and tax deductible, all that good stuff. Like we've made it to like the big time. And now what we need is your involvement. We have a board right now that consists of myself, Michael Flanagan from the Danny and Joyce family, who aren't here, he's not here tonight, Matt Radler from the Joan side, Kathy Ash from Dorisa, Michael John De Palma from Tom De Palma and Helene, and Kathy Lurzel. So that's our board. We tried to get every family involved, and we're still waiting for a weight and a Renzi to come on board. We'd love to have it. So if you are a weight or you are a Renzi and you come anywhere near me tonight, we might have a conversation.
Can you make nominees? Can you make nominees?
I nominate Antoinette. She's retired now.
Yes, and in-laws can join in, Antoinette. I put 1, 2, 3 down here, and I won't belabor it because I know we're running like about an hour late. Some of our purposes or our mission. So if you have projects or you have ideas, I really would love for you to share, some of your ideas, and hopefully we can get it going. Thanks to many generous family members, we're pretty well endowed at this point, so we really can get some projects off the ground. We just got another $5,000 contribution, so we're moving along, okay? And in an effort to branch out a little bit, we've decided that we're going to sell merchandise. So on the back of the page, I asked some questions. This is a little less painful and something you can talk to me about and not feel a lot of pressure. The logo, that thanks to Brian Lurzel, we have this beautiful logo. So we want to put that on some merchandise. So tell us what you would like. Would you like beer glasses? Would you like t-shirts, jackets? Do you like little logos, or do you like big, all on your back type logos? Whatever is your thing. Now's your chance to speak up before they all get made, and hopefully we'll have them for Christmas orders. So perfect gift for everybody. One thing I want to correct Johnny on, I was not a coordinator for this event. I just kind of got roped into speaking. Really, Kelly and Matt were really... They put everything together, and I really would like to recognize them now with one of their absolutely most favorite snacks from Ireland. I got the cheese and onion. Is that okay? So please. Thanks to them, and also thank you to Michael for tonight. We really all appreciate and I think the turnout was really great, thanks to you. Also, a couple of other things I want to thank really all of the people in our family who are, it's hard to just pick one or two because there's so many great people that just through this whole crazy time that we're living in, it's obvious that we just have really great family and really great people. Yes. There's no doubt about it. You all know how to support each other and support those around you. But I want to take a special moment to thank service members with 9/11 being tomorrow. We have many family members who really have dedicated a lot of time in their lives to help us be able to enjoy the things that we like to enjoy. We're really blessed. And one way, if you look to the past, you understand that we really are something special. And one thing I want to talk about with service and support, besides all the obvious things like teachers and the policemen and firemen and service members, are the people that make us feel good. And that would be a lot of our grandfather, great-grandfather, father. That's a service too. And I don't know how many of you really know what it was like in New York in the 20s and 30s. That might be some good questions to ask this group tonight. But life for the Irish immigrants who came to New York was not easy. It was not a pleasant life. Maybe some of you studied in school things like maybe the Triangle Fire, where the workers were locked into the building and couldn't get out. And then on the weekends or on the nights, they would go to the dances, and people like our grandfather and our uncle would make them happy, would give them a relief from their hard life. So that's a kind of service too. And I want to recognize that, because I don't think we always think about how important recreation is. And we're all about feeling good. Another quick thing I want to talk about is that sheet on the back of the wall there. Chris Waite made that. He's really sorry he can't be here tonight. He's really sorry if there are any mistakes in there. He'd like to know if there are any mistakes, and he can fill in or fix any of that. But one of my little goals is to get pictures of all of you and all of your families, and put little photos next to your name on that big sheet. That's kind of a dream I have, so that we can all figure out who's who. Because we're about, I think, Chris isn't here to confirm, I think he told me there were 240 something people on the mailing list. And that doesn't include our little ones. So maybe a third of us are here tonight, even though we're a really big group. So when you think about that, that's a lot of people. So anyway, it'd be really great to have pictures. And speaking of pictures, if you haven't looked in that other room, there are a bunch of pictures and collages that I put together from my mother's suitcase. She had a suitcase full of pictures, and I tried to organize and make sense of some of that. If there's something in there that speaks to you, come see me about it, because I don't know where I'm going to hang all those. so they are kind of up for grabs in a lot of cases, or we can work out a deal, and it will not be too expensive. So with that, I'm going to do the raffle, and I need Carolyn. Carolyn, please. Caroline, where are you?
I'm trying to book her 5 hour driving schedule.
Oh, she's on the phone. Well, Olivia, is Olivia here? Liv, she said she wanted you to do it, so come on. That's what my talk was all about, okay? Helping out your sister.
All right, pull out your raffle tickets.
Everybody.
Yes, this is from the Petite Parade. It used to be out there on the table. There's a cover and a candle was in it. So this is the raffle basket.
Pick it out.
Get to it. Yeah, tonight.
Are you ready? Everybody got their tickets? Okay. Would you like to read it?
Did a great job.
9, 3, 2, 2, 8, 7.
Got it.
That was quick.
Wait a minute. I'm going to have to talk to Mom because I don't think he's 21.
You can raffle that off separately.
Well, this has something in
I'll
it.
give it to him. It's
That's what I'm saying.
And I don't think you're in any position to do
Yeah, let's take a vote.
We're going to leave it alone.
Has anyone ever had a drink in his family under 21? Hey, Aunt Alice, give it up. Give it all.
And by the way, Aiden gets the chair from camp, the red wicker chair. That is part of the raffle. This is your basket. Congratulations. So, this is why I could not give this to Aiden.
Raffle that separately.
This is Irish whiskey liqueur that is made in Waterford, which is where our grandfather came from. It's pretty tasty. So tasty, in fact, that a non-drinker like me really enjoys a little bit of Muldoon now and again. And one year my husband could not find this locally anywhere, so he went online and had it shipped from Ireland. So this is a very special gift.
Open it up.
Let's have it here. Well, maybe he'll win.
Bodie, take one out. Bodie, take a winner.
No.
So I'm getting some requests from the audience that we should just drink it tonight.
Matt Radler.
If everyone's in agreement, we can pass the bottle. Is that legal? Will the restaurant clear?
Mike, your battery's still good.
Sorry, am I talking too much?
Move it.
No, not at all.
So we are. I'm gonna wrap up because I know a lot of other people really want this microphone a lot more than I do. But we're gonna wrap up with a video that thank you to Debbie and David. It's a very sweet remembrance of all the people we wish could be with us here tonight.
All right, so this is an opportunity for audience participation. I've learned of something we're going to do tonight through an email from Debbie Wade Schaefer, Ann Marion's oldest daughter. Not the oldest cousin. The oldest cousin is Chris. In fact, he's our eldest cousin. And I really wish he was here because I've been keep calling him old for the entire evening, but he's not. So, Debbie, you're the oldest cousin tonight. You never know it by looking at it. Give her a hand. Anyway, so Debbie has this email. She sends it out. She says, everybody prepare a question that they would like to ask to this illustrious panel. And maybe we'll get a couple stories out of them. And I think that's a brilliant idea. And so I'm going to ask someone to raise their hand who might have a question. And if you don't raise your hand, I'm going to come over and ask you to ask a question. And I see Bodie already has his hands up, but I'm really hoping somebody else raises their hand right now. Yeah, maybe somebody. Mike. Okay. All right, Bodie, you're up. What do you got? Come on, you got to go. There's one thing. We're going to use this microphone. You have to come up, stand up here, and speak into this microphone, like little Eileen did.
Oh, I think we should have a shot before you ask the question.
Bodie wants to have a shot before we ask the question. So he's clearly really prepared for this part of the program. Thanks, Bodie. That helps. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to ask somebody here, Bobby and Eileen. What question would you like to walk up to the podium and ask Tom, Eileen, John, Kathy?
Find somebody.
No, I'm not. No, start with you guys. And Marion, George, Marion, come on, let's go. Come on, give up. Let's go. Ask the question. Come on, Bob. Okay, Bob. Right up there. Right here.
Oh, you're not going to tell us?
No, I'm asking you to ask them a question that you would like to know. Like, for example, let me help them out, okay? So you could ask something like, hey, how did Grandma and Grandpa Flanagan meet?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right? Good question, right? Let's came up with that. See, it's not that hard. Okay, who can tell the story of how they met? Anybody have that in their Aunt Marion? Would you like to give it a shot?
I think we're done.
They met at a dance hall in New York City. Grandpa was playing. And they basically... Louder? Okay, there it goes. Okay, sorry. Grandpa was playing in New York City with his brothers. They were well-known musicians. They were playing in these clubs, these dance clubs, where all the immigrants would come. It was 1920s, no TV, no radios, no anything. Thousands of homesick immigrants that were just longing for a piece of home, and they would come to these clubs and pack them. I mean, they used to have police outside, so they had to control the number of people going into the clubs, and loved your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your uncle, however you're related to Michael Flanagan. But they were recording artists. They recorded for Columbia, they recorded for RCA, for the big record companies. And Grandma was at a dance with her sister, who had brought her over from Ireland, and fell head over heels for the good-looking musician. And the rest is history.
Probably more for the
Why
girls.
doesn't Michael have to come to the podium?
Oh, do you sit down? Okay, here's my question. It's probably more for the girls, okay? What was it like, the average day in your house with this tiny little house, all the girls, the guys? Just give us an idea of what an average morning looked like or a day looked like for all of us.
Doris.
Oh, Teresa. Teresa on that board over there. Here we go. Yeah, hold it very close.
I was much younger than my older sister. But I do have memories of them. They had graduated school. They were still living on J Street. We were all together there. And there was one closet for clothes with a lock on it. This is gross truth, Marion. She'll back me up on this one. But somehow, the sisters were able to do this little lock, get it open, snitch a sweater, and off they go, and then put the lock back on. So anyway, poor Marion, she really had a job, and she really bought clothes, and it was her closet. So I'm going to pass the mic to her and see if she can add any more to it. Do you remember that, Marion?
No, the girls would wear the clothes, and I didn't know about it. And then they'd hang it back in the closet, dirty or whatever. But I loved them anyway. There was a bunch of us, I guess, at home. And I don't know how my mother managed, but she did, thank God. So, I don't know if anybody else has a story. I think Claudia was planning something.
Oh, perfect, Claudia. Wow.
I just want you to elaborate on that same story of the closet and what happened to something you had put away for your wedding.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That's
right.
Sorry, Tom. This sounds too good.
No, I just took away all the nightgowns that were packed in there.
Yeah, they got into your trousseau, right? And
He survived.
they just weren't the first one to wear your clothes.
I think you're
Backing up on the closet thing, I was the second youngest. Kathy was almost a year behind me, birthday-wise. And so everything was a flurry, constant flurry. But as far as I understood what the closet was, they took the hinges off, took the clothes out, put the hinges back. They didn't open any locks. So they were trying to be real coy. But again, this is the stuff I heard. It was very weird being down below all these other sisters who were down below all these other brothers. And what the brothers did to the sisters did to me. So it was really a gauntlet growing up under there, but it never was boring, ever.
Marion went to sleep every night secure in the fact that the closet was locked and wore the key around her neck so that no one could get into it. And her diabolical sisters did take the hinges off. They were so nice. But in addition to that, the girls would come home at night and to get ready for work in the morning, they'd put pin curls in their hair and they'd go to bed. And the next person who came in would take the pin curls out of her hair because you were asleep and do theirs. Someone would go to sleep thinking they're all set and their hair would look good, and they'd wake up in the morning and their sister is looking lovely. Their hair is, and that's true. And Michael, you asked about what a day was like.
In the bathroom.
There was one bathroom, one full bathroom, and there could be 4 people in there. You would brush your teeth from the bathtub because somebody was at the sink shaving. Somebody would be on the john, hopefully just emptying their bladder, not doing anything else. And other people banging on the door to get in. So that was always crazy. And just my mother and father would, they would just persevere with all of it. My mother was a workhorse. Saturday night at 11 o'clock was her favorite time to wash the kitchen floor because there was no traffic, or very little traffic, going across the kitchen. They really were hard workers, and they kept a family together, and we were glued with love and just devotion. And it was a great family to grow up in. So. I'll take another one.
I just wanted to add something on taking a bath, which was, can't imagine. In order to get hot water, you had a little furnace, not in the basement, but in the side room off the kitchen, to heat the water with not coal, but charcoal. something, anyway. So it took quite a while for the water to heat up, and you waited and waited to take your bath. Well, wouldn't you know, the older one jumped in first, used the water, but saved the water for you, which is always a thrill. By the time I got here, the water was cold and dirty. But I swear in the Bible, that's the truth. That's how we did it. That's how you took a bath Saturday night.
And to get even with her sisters, we all went to New York for a weekend when we were grown up. This was when we were all adults. And we had a sisters weekend in New York City at the Biltmore Hotel. And this one is in the bathroom, and you know, fine, we're all sitting around talking. And she walks out of the bathroom and goes, "Okay, Joan, I saved the bathwater for
you." Good question, Mike. That's good.
That was life.
Okay. Who are we going to pick on next? Okay, Remy. Go on.
I'll go to the podium. Hi, everybody. I'm Remy, and I'm a Flanagan. Have been for 23 years. No, anyways, 24 actually. I don't even know my own age. So my question is, for the ones of us that have been to Ireland, I think a couple of us know, just meeting people there in the pubs and everything, how much of an influence the music of Michael Flanagan has had on people that we don't know, family and otherwise. Just myself seeing it, meeting people my age, you know, at bars and pubs in Ireland that are like, oh my God, that's so cool that you're related and everything like that. So my question is, and we can go down the line, what is your favorite musical memory growing up involving Michael?
There's 2 stories in the house, kids were upstairs, nighttime, and all the friends of the Flanagans would come and they would party every Saturday night. And they would party loud. There was a woman named Mrs. Leonard who had a laugh like no one in the world. And you could just hear her, a beautiful lady. But of course they would imbibe in some refreshments and play, and Mr. Leonard would bring a squeeze box. He would play, Dad would play the banjo. And they had quite a couple of couples that they were very close with when they started the Hibernians and that, and so on. So the issue was, they would yell at us, "You're not asleep yet." Okay, there's no way you're going to go to sleep, so you'd lay there all night until the party was over, because they just went on, and then they kind of moseyed out the door, kind of a little wobbly, some of them, but they had a great time. They knew how to celebrate life, because life was tough. They saved hard, they worked hard, they disciplined their families, they believed in what they believed in terms of their church life and so on. Very, very small things, but very disciplined people, and they were survivors. Okay, they knew how to survive. They knew how to adapt and survive, because it was always adapting. One time Dad got burned. He was in the hospital. People died. People were born, and they always adapted. And it was always a joke out of everything. Funerals, laughing. Okay, because that's how they dealt with pain, and words of wisdom. But it was an amazing situation to grow up in. You don't realize it as a kid. You're around that kind of influence, and you never knew that Dad had that kind of impact as a musician. He just played this banjo thing, you know, and that's what he did. And he'd go out on weekends and play. And he used to go to the Home for the Incurables and do volunteer work down there, playing for them on the weekends. So always giving, always giving. It was giving. Mom never stopped giving, and the discipline was there, and you couldn't mess up, because if he didn't hear you, one of the brothers and sisters would hear you go, "Yeah," and you end up on the floor. I mean, no, seriously, it was a gauntlet. I'm telling you, it was crazy. But later on in life, you appreciate the development of those things, because you're able to pass it on to whoever people you worked with, whoever people worked under you, or your children, and so on. And it taught you how to survive and persevere. There was no quitting. I mean, they'd send you upstairs for stuff. You're a kid. Go upstairs and get my socks, and it's nighttime, and one of them are waiting up there in the dark. And man, I'll tell you, it was always push the edge. You weren't allowed to be afraid. You had to suck it up and keep going. And it really made a difference in terms of going on in life and facing things and surviving. And you know, Helene always said, if we ever get divorced, all she wants is my sisters, because the only ones that can tell me what to do and get away with it. But that's how it was, though. And I honored them so much. They were tough girls, but brilliant, beautiful, gifted, okay, strong, You know, all this talk today about this and that, they were way ahead of all that stuff. They didn't care what their brothers thought until it came to dating. And they thought they were all going to be nuns because the brothers came back from the Navy, Art and Mike, and they knew how guys thought. And these guys show up with duck boots on and DAs and stuff. They weren't getting in the house. They'd sit around their underwear when their dates would come and intimidate these boys who'd never been overseas. So it was very interesting.
One of your favorite musical memories?
Mr. Flanagan.
Hold it closer, Dad.
One of it, I won't finish the words, but you made me love you. That was one of them. The magic, he was magic. The man was magic. We talked about Greg. He can come into a room, look at you, and play the music you wanted to hear. He had that ability to read the audience, make you sing with him so quickly. He was magic. Never met anything like it. One thing he had, the ability of, and I wish the girls would comment on what they were, but he had more tricks with corn and mathematical drills. And you would say, what? How is this coming out of this guy? And he would have the answer. It was marvelous. Now, I'll just step one place further. Who can float on their back and smoke a cigarette and read the newspaper at the same time?
We grew up in a very wild house with music. Grandpa was a great banjo player. Really seen so many comments and things that have been written about him since his death by scholars and people in Ireland. And you go to Ireland and mention his name, and people know exactly who he is. When he was recording here in this country with his brothers, there were no records in Ireland. There were no record companies, so his records were sent overseas and played in just about every household in Ireland, and people all still remember him and know him. It was great. But in addition, my oldest brother Michael was an extremely gifted musician. Michael was a jazz musician. Michael was a classical musician. He played the bass fiddle, he played bass guitar, and he was just an extraordinary musician. And one of the things that he did for us was at our summer camp, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard different things about, Michael decided to, I don't know why, but he decided to remodel one of the rooms in the camp. And he did a great job. He paneled it, put a bookcase in it. He got an upright piano. It was a second-hand piano, but he brought it there so that one of us could develop a brilliant musical career as a pianist. And actually what Tom and I found it really good for was hiding in it when we were playing hide and go seek. You could lift the top up and get inside, and, just hopefully, avoid getting tagged. And I remember when I was probably about 5 years old or 6 years old, I was really little, playing hide and go seek and climbing into it, and the entire piano just crashed. So my career as a brilliant pianist ended.
You brought the piano. Mom, do you have
I'm sorry. Teresa.
Well, one thing was very important in our lives growing up, and we learned the reverence and the belief of someone greater power than what we knew. Art. Especially art. Didn't give an inch. Brutal. But it was great art. You don't want to mess with art. But anyway, they do pass on faith, hope, and charity to us, and I'm always be grateful for that. And I believe our loved ones here understand what that means, to have someone who is so kind in your life, and so generous, and so giving. My mother's sister passed away. She lived in New York City and had 2 children, and one of them happened to be Uncle Tom, your dearest uncle, and he was our new brother when her sister died. And also Tom's older sister Barbara, who's passed away, became a new sister for us. So we added on to the family with relatives of my mother's. Not my father, thankfully, I guess, but our family grew because of love, charity, and hope, and belief. And that's what we grew up with. Thank God.
That's good to remember that. Not all the battles, not the fights, clothes, forget it.
Tangerine.
Not yet. Oh, say something. Oh, they do?
Song from the 30s, maybe? Okay, this is a relic of a song, Tangerine, but when you hear it, you'll never forget it. And Aunt Marion is going to give us her version of it.
Hold it up closer.
Is it close enough?
That's good.
Tangerine. She is all they claim, with her eyes of night and lips as bright as flame. Oh, can't make you're doing it. Tangerine, she is all they claim, praised in every bar across the Argentine. Now she has them all on the run, but her heart belongs to just one. Her heart belongs to Tangerine.
We do have time for another question if anybody has something.
First of all, Tangerine has been near and dear to my heart. It's the first time I heard it.
Put it closer.
Couple things. My favorite
Put it closer.
was when the Flanagan girls sang Danny Boy. That was the best. But I don't remember. But it was good. It was good. So I have a question. You know, Michael started talking about how did you manage the bathroom, the growing up, the day-to-day. And that was fine when you were on J Street. But when you went to Snyder's Lake, which I just recently found was the summer camp. We never knew it was called the summer camp. That's something I've learned today.
Summer house.
Yeah, no, summer camp. That was
Summer house.
yeah. But now a lot of you cousins and extended friends and new family, you probably noticed a red structure when you came in. And for those my age, we know what that is. And
An outhouse.
certainly these guys, an outhouse. Perfect. But some of you don't know exactly what went on in those. Because, and this is a question for our dais, why are there 2 seats in there? And the other question is, and you got to tell the truth because you're all sworn to tell the truth. Has anyone actually shared any time with a sibling or anyone other in there? Okay. Okay.
Bodie, this is for you, specifically for you. Okay, so, number one, it's no different than... But number one, it's no different than when you were little kids growing up and the boys would go into the bathroom together and make airplanes or whatever, you know, share in the bathroom. The adults didn't so much go in there, but there is a great story about my sister Eileen, who happens to be your mother, when she was in her teens and she had gone to work for her first job and came back out to the lake. She was in the city and came back out to stay and was just ecstatic because she got her paycheck. And she got paid in cash at the time. They didn't do checks so much. And she was so happy and so protective that she took her wallet up to the outhouse with her.
Oh no!
And unfortunately, when she was sitting on the outhouse, doing what you do in the outhouse, her wallet fell out and fell in the outhouse.
How deep was that?
And it was pretty deep. And it was not a place you'd want to go anyway. But being the good father that he was, Grandpa fished it out. And Doris told me the other day she remembered seeing all the dollar bills hanging up on the clothesline because they washed everything. So that was one of the outhouse. The other one was, we used to have relatives from New York that came up every summer. And they lived, in Manhattan or in, Queens, concrete, no trees or grass or anything. And they were deathly afraid of the country, with all the bugs and the bears and the tigers and the lions. But my Aunt Tess, who was a little bit of a thing, she went up to the outhouse one night and was coming back down, and they would run, back down to get into the camp and get away from the outhouse. And the belt on her dress had come undone, and it was slapping the back of her leg when she was running. She thought it was a snake. So she speeded up, and she hit the clothesline. And she almost garroted herself. And that, I think there's probably as many stories as there were users of that facility. And I have to commend Mark and Claudia and Pam and Steve for that replica, because it is amazing. And the only thing that's in there that we never had were lights. And there will be a photo op session after this.
And it's up for raffle.
Two at a time at that photo op. I actually have a question for our first cousins. Oh, actually, I'm gonna word association. So if I say wooden spoon, you think of If I say the strap, belt, you think of Grandpa. Now this is really for the second generation, because they're like, what are these people talking about? If I say broom, you think of yeah, Doris. Or Teresa? Sorry. No. Look, this is a funny way of saying that we were raised at a time where our moms would grab what was nearest to them many times when we were misbehaving and correct us. And those instruments of correction were things such as brooms, belts, slippers, spatulas, wooden spoons. Anybody? What am I missing? Come on. Somebody, what? Oh, hairbrush. No, hairbrush, of course. Forget that. Am I missing anything else? Because I really don't want to leave anything out here. Fly swatter. Oh yeah, that's it. That fly swatter is easy. I'd take the fly swatter. That was like, fly swatter. Grab that. Leave that broom over there. Okay. Yes, Tom. Red pole. A red steel pole. Oh, I'm going to give Uncle Tom the microphone for this one. We got to find out about this red steel pole.
No, you never knew what was coming, but with Michael, very intelligent guy, a lot of psychology, loved Asian food. He was weird. He had a wonderful heart, talented man, but he was always trying to bring in new concepts. And but Kathy and I were little, so if we did something out of line, he's getting dressed to go out to a music job, putting a suit on. I always remember the Old Spice. I'll never forget it. He put it on. Like, he would not take his time to decide when he's getting dressed. we would have to stand in the bedroom and put our nose against the red pole, and if we moved, it was longer to stay there. And while he's getting dressed, we had to stay there and listen to him ad nauseam with our nose against the pole because he was teaching us. So that was his way of correcting. I don't know if we got that in a prisoner of war camp or something, but that's what he did. But again, perseverance, we survived, and we're still here. And I just want to say something about Marion's song. Jim Fine, Jim, would you put your hand up? Aunt May came, she'd never been to America. She hadn't seen her sisters for years. They immigrated, they didn't go back. So she came to Albany, she met the Flanagan family. Well, the night that Marion sang that, I don't know where it was, in the Shamrock or someplace, Aunt May, a gentle, would not hurt a fly, loving woman, sitting there listening to Marion sing. And she said sincerely, she goes, "Oh my God, pray for her." She thought it was real. She didn't know it was a put-on. That's true.
Did they all have to sleep in the same room?
Did they all have to sleep in the same room? That's a great question. All right. Who's going to take that one up? All right, how about you? How about Theresa?
Carl. Yeah, we had a twin. We had a bunk bed at one point, and then there was a double bed in the room, and there was a small closet onto that where Eileen and Joan slept. And Ellen, we were packed in pretty good. The gentlemen were downstairs. They were kept separate from the women upstairs. So that's how it worked. They had one bedroom with Arthur. Sure, but everybody shared a bed. No one had their own bed. So we became very close family.
Do you remember the night that you came home really late and Dad got mad at you for it? And he told you to get upstairs and get into bed, and he was coming up with the strap. I'm asleep, and all of a sudden I feel Doris getting in bed, and she's climbing on the inside. She's going, push out, push out. I'm like, what? The next thing I know, I feel, whack! She had climbed down the inside of bed where I sleep to avoid getting the strap. She's such a good sister. I love her so.
One person that couldn't join us tonight, but we do have a chair for, that is not feeling so well, but we love dearly and would have a seat here if she felt up to it, is Aunt Joyce. So I just wanted to mention this to her. And on that note,
ultimately the question is if you know where your name came from. This is for Aunt Marion and Aunt Doris and Aunt Kathy, all of you. If there was some origin where the name came from, and I say this because this past birthday of mine, which was in January 30th, I turned 59. Shout out to the 62. Yeah. And I was at my mother's house, and I sat down in the morning on the couch, and my mother said, "What was I doing 59 years ago today?" And so I'd heard the story before, and nothing changed much. She was living in Syracuse. My father was working in Watertown, and January 30th, winter, big snowstorm on the day I was born. And my mother, of course, wanted my father there, but he called and said he couldn't make it because of work, which did not please my mother. And I forget exactly what Uncle Bob is looking for, but my mother.
Something with the septic tank, I think.
There was some pump. Yes.
Yeah.
My mother asked Uncle Bob Radler if he could take her to the hospital. He says, "Yeah, as long as we can stop by. I have to get a part for a sump pump." So after we got the part for the sump pump, my mother got to the hospital. I was born, and Uncle Bob became my godfather, as did the nurse on duty. No kidding. And they asked for the name. What's that? Kathy. Yes, her name was Kathy. I was talking to my mother about this the other day. But anyway, then my mother, this is the first time she ever told me the story on my 59th birthday. She said, yeah, you know, your father wouldn't come down, and I was so mad at him. And he made me promise that if we ever had a child, I would never name one of them after him. And so, hence. Daniel James Flanagan Jr., Little Danny, just to spite my father. And so, 31 years later, when Daniel James Flanagan III was born, it's like, oh man, I didn't know that story existed. So it was really funny to hear. I don't know if my mother forgave my father, but it was a funny story. So I'm wondering if Kathleen, obviously we know where your name came from, but anybody else on the panel there?
My name is,
Do you know if you were named after somebody or named after Marianne, your grandmother? Oh, okay. Grandma's mother's name is Marianne. Okay. Marianne's named after her. That's easy.
a neighbor, and then, well, I think, I don't know who was next, but.
Okay, well, just to speed it along, my name was Doris Teresa, and I was named after my mother's brother's wife, Uncle Mickey. Well,
Short for my
Aunt Doris became a witch. And my name suddenly changed to Teresa. That's how I got Teresa.
No, I was just named, I was the last one. So obviously it was like, thank God, the last one this year, and we're just going to call her Kathleen and call her quits.
The last one was the shake of the back. You shake the back, the last one out of the back.
Yeah. That's
Thomas came from my mother's grandfather in Ireland, Thomas Connolly. Grandma Kathleen, all the sisters were all the Connolly family from Ireland, which was Jimmy's family growing up in Ireland. So it was Thomas from the grandfather in Ireland.
Bob after Dad. Michael Graham, Dad's middle name. Daniel Gregory after Uncle Dan, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Matthew Arthur. Christine Kathleen. Kelly Margaret. Where's Margaret?
Kelly and Margaret.
And Margaret, okay. Anyway, I'm wondering where Jeffrey Charles came from. But that's not the real question. What is your...
Jeff, you were adopted.
That's great. I wasn't. There's a lot of folks here that didn't get to meet Joni. What favorite memories that you could share with folks that never got to meet her?
I forgot about it. The interesting thing about Joan is she was a woman and girl. Again, I was down to the bottom of the group there, but every one of them were unforgettable. They were just so unique and different. But she was a friend to the end. And one time, again, it was a survival thing, but yo-yos were in fashion. And this guy would come around where country he's from, but there was these diamond wooden yo-yos. And we'd never afford a yo-yo. So I saw $10 laying around, and I took it. Didn't tell anybody, went out and bought the yo-yo. And took the change and threw it under the bed. Well, of course, money was dear. $10 was a lot of money back in the early 50s. And so there's a hunt for the $10. I don't know what it is. I never saw it. I'm telling people, okay, so building up reasons to go to confession big time after stealing the money. But when eventually it came out, Joan sat down, and she probably figured it out it was me. But when I confessed to her that I took the money, she was very gracious. She understood, never threw me in, never told Dad, because that would have been a big no-no, okay, because I can tell you on his belt, on his belt buckle, I can tell you what the carvings looked like on his belt buckle and on the belt itself. I mean, it was like a gunfighter. You watched his hands, and you know what it was. No, serious. But Joan was just. I only saw her angry once, and I won't tell you what happened there. It wasn't with me, but she was unforgettable, beautiful, kind, bright, gentle, loving, and very faithful. So she bailed me out. She took the change from the yo-yo, was never brought up again, and that's one of the things I remember about Joan. The other thing I remember was that when she was ill and very ill, the priest said that when he was coming to minister to Joan, as she was dealing with this sickness, this cancer, he said that Joan ministered to him, that he had cancer. And when he came to minister to her, her spirit, her strength, and the spirit that was in that church that day was unbelievable. I'm not a guy that cries very much or very much at all, but that day I was crying uncontrollable because of Joan and her heart and her beauty. But that priest said from that pulpit that she ministered to him and helped him deal with his cancer while she was really in bad shape with hers. So that's the kind of woman she is.
Yep. The story Tom just told, I was in the bedroom, I think just the two of us, and she shared with me where she was. She was at peace. I told presence of what she had assurance that what we're looking at today would happen. And she felt that. And she conveyed that to me. And I had to share that with you because I knew we was on the same page when she was speaking of a space where she was in total peace, no fears, there was no fear in her life. And there was assurance that her family would be what they are. And somehow I think she's a word.
Joan was a second mother to me. She was somebody who I loved and respected my whole life. But I wanted to go back a little bit to a love story that started with Bob Radler from New York City and Joan Flanagan from Albany. And Bob and Joan met through the courtesy of a wonderful woman, another couple, Jean Megan, who was responsible for their meeting. And Bob was up from New York City. He was a salesman, and he was living at Skip and Jean Megan's house. He was renting a room. And the Megans knew the Flanagans, and as things would have it, eventually Joan met Bob and fell madly in love with him. They were dating. They went to the old Hibernian Hall in Albany, which was an Irish club. And Joan was trying to be a little bit cute and standoffish, and Dad got mad at her, and he threw a glass of beer at her. And quiet, reserved, loving, caring Joan picked up a pitcher and poured a pitcher of beer over Bob. And the rest is history. They got married and had a wonderful life together.
Well, she was an angel, but she was also a party girl. And it was at a time back to Snyder's Lake. She had all the children except for Kelly. And John and I had 3 children. We came out for a visit and having a good time, so on and so forth. And they asked if we could stay while they went down to the Catskills for the evening. Well, they went. We expected them back. Didn't come. But the next day we thought for sure they'd come back. The next day it's still gone. John pacing around with her face like, there's no communication, but I knew where they were. Didn't have to call me. And anyway, they did show up, and they were so thankful. So thankful.
Oh, I'm not sure I was aware of that. No, my little sister. We had a wonderful time. We learned a lot of things.
Can I remind you
Oh, yes, Dad made us sing.
Go ahead.
There's a microphone right there.
Up and, what did we sing? God knows. We didn't know many Irish songs. Out at Snyder's Lake.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it used to be at Easter time, they would sell live little chicks, and they would dye them. I think that was terrible, but we got a green one.
What was his name?
What's his name?
Irish.
Irish. And it was a oh yes, it was not a real name. But anyhow, I think eventually Joan gave the rooster to the guy who owned the farm. Yeah. Had some good times. Strange but
Rooster.
We're going to cut the cake next. Happy birthday, Mom. Okay, good. What do you got?
My question is, how the hell doesn't Kathy Flanagan have a question?
How the hell doesn't Kathy Flanagan have a question?
I don't really have a question. I have a ghost story. Just kidding. I would kind of like to know what you think was the largest number of people to sleep over in the camp. Counting all the drawers, the dresser drawers, under beds, the 30 in the attic. Huh? And the hammock. So what do you think? How many?
I would say between 35 and 40. There were 13 of us, to start with.
And how many bedrooms and beds were there originally? 2. There you go. That's what we're looking for.
My favorite bed was that red chair on the front porch.
Yes, yeah. If you fell asleep in the wicker furniture on the porch, you would wake up and you would actually have, premature wrinkles all over your face, your arm. And Doris and I were talking about the fun of having Uncle Art or Uncle Michael or Uncle Danny come out at night. They were in the city working, and they'd come out and they'd want to go for a swim at 9 o'clock at night. And we were like, oh great, we get to go swimming with Uncle Art, and he'd always put you up on his shoulders and let you dive off. And we were talking about putting on a wet bathing suit. And then you'd come back up and you'd fall asleep in it. And you'd wake up in the morning and you're like, how come I'm so chafed? But they were fun. They were the best times when we could go down to the lake with them at night. But no, we used to have all of our relatives up from New York City, aunts, uncles, cousins would come up, and I don't know where everybody went, but they fit them in. So. I don't know where and the infamous attic where our brother Danny used to gather little children up there and tell ghost stories and scare the heck out of everybody. But always loved it, and everybody wanted more. They wanted to hear more stories. But no, we somehow managed. I don't know how my mother and father did it, but they got everybody in, and everybody had fun. So.
Okay. Oh, Mike's coming to the microphone. Hey, give him a hand. Thank you. Mike. Okay, here it is.
All right, a couple of questions. All right, first thing is, who in this room, even though it was completely prohibited, swam across Snyder's Lake? Raise your hand right now. Come on, show it. Really? That's it? Come on. Who? All right, sorry. Who swam across Snyder's Lake? Raise your hand. I know you did. No? Okay.
We were told it wasn't allowed. I was told.
Yeah. All right, keep it going. All right. I'm really disappointed in Harvard. All right. Next thing is, you talk about going up in that attic.
Oh
Okay. If it wasn't 150 degrees, it was the bees. All right? How about that? I mean, what kind of parents send their kids into a place that's 150 degrees and there's wasps everywhere? There wasn't even a can of spray. It's just, come on up there and get to bed. Yeah, be quiet. All right, really, this is the question. Who has the recipe to the clam chowder that was made at the Megan's? Where is that recipe?
In the trash can.
In the trash can. That's it, all right?
Uncle Larry.
Uncle Larry had it? I'm serious, that was some of the best.
He was at the 4th of July picnic.
Sorry, I'm done.
The Megans had made their usual, like, 40-gallon can of chowder, cutting up potatoes and carrots, and it was the most delicious soup. And Uncle Larry thought, oh, you know, it needs a little more pepper. And he picked up a can of pepper like that, and the top was loose on it, and dumped an entire can of pepper into the chowder. And everybody was like, too spicy. And he's going, it's perfect, it's perfect. I thought Gene was going to kill him. He ruined like 40 gallons of chowder. That's when you know you have friends. When they don't kill you. But
Okay.
Beanie might have the recipe.
I have something to say.
Officer, you there?
Oh, it's not our oldest cousin, Debbie, sneaking up to the microphone on us. Go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, speaking of the attic and all the wonderful wet nights we spent up there with all these little cousins that peed the bed. The original mattress from the attic is out in that room there. And I'm going to pick a number, and somebody gets to take it home. Okay, are you ready?
Oh, I lost my ticket.
Okay, 9, 3, 2, 3, 3, 9. Oh, you are the lucky winner! Seriously, I just want to say thank you to Eileen for all the work she did for those pictures out
Guests that are here are friends. Guests. There's no guests here. We're all family. What am I talking about? But Skip and Jean, Megan were close to this family through and through. They were always at the camp. And some of the Megans are here tonight. So I just want them to feel the love and we felt it too. Okay, we are, as Heather said, we're, I'm sorry. Grace, got another question here. 2?
When are we having cake?
Okay. Well, we're gonna. I've got Matt. I've got Grace. I got Kelly. No, I got Kathy. Go ahead.
Debbie has an announcement and a present.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that was part of.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There's a lot to
Oh, okay. Surprise! All right. I got it. Okay, so. Yeah, Uncle Tom, what do you got for me?
Okay, Huck was asking for a secret tonight. I'm not telling him, okay? But I know secrets about you guys that you don't even remember. I know. I was probably 12 years old, and of course, Joan wasn't the only one to party. Bob partied, okay? And we lived on Carroll Terrace. It was probably 1958. I was 12, 13 years old. And they would show up, and they were going out for the night, and they dropped up all their kids. And I'm telling you, I'm 12 years old. I was available, they didn't have a car, couldn't get away. And I had those kids, and they were diapers, some were coming out of diapers. And the only song I knew to put them to sleep was the Star Spangled Banner. And I didn't know that very well, but that's what I sang to them. But these kids, it was like being in a monkey cage. I'm telling you, they were all over the place. So, you know, you got Joan's family, you got Eileen's family, Ellen's family, and they would drop the kids off on Carroll Terrace. And it was crazy. And Debbie can attest to this because the first class that I taught when I started teaching is in elementary school, I had 45 kids in that class. all year long. In one class, where's Debbie Spear? Debbie visited that class, remember? And I was really prepared to do that because of that babysitting experience. And it wasn't just one time, because they would go out and you didn't know when they were coming back. No, you didn't. So you had to manage all these kids, but it was weird, but it was fun, because I didn't care, there was no rules, and they were just all over the place. That's true. And in the camp, the attic, there was one mattress, each bed had a spring, and the mattress was this thick, okay, and it was literally just hell, because you could feel every spring between the bees and the flies, and so you have to survive. I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
And Heather, we're gonna have cake right after this, okay, so everybody know that. My one final question, and I think we all can identify what this phrase is saying, you know, two phrases. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and if you didn't laugh, you cry. So, with those phrases in mind, and being brief, please share with us what being a part of this family all these years has meant to you in your own way.
Well, it's hard to posit that, but I went and spoke to Dad one time. He was living with Kathy. I said, I want to thank you for something. I finally realized through coaching and through teaching, particularly through coaching, the discipline that I passed on to these teams and these kids. We would have 90 kids at Hudson Valley a season. And I would tell my coaches that, you know, what you say to these kids, they're going to say to their kids, because you have influence. And I knew the things that he had wired, Dad had wired me, that I didn't realize when I said, I'm like him. I mean, the guy I would run from, I'm like him now, okay? But I thank God for it. And those kids benefited from his lifestyle, his values, his morality, his perseverance, his standard. He never changed. He never varied in who he was. And those things gave me the ability to survive and go on and do what I did. Education-wise and life-wise, and as a dad too, I think son can attest to that, and Ashley can attest to that. She's, you know, looking at me as probably a very strange father-in-law, but that's what I remember, the values that I learned, and to be able to survive some of the things coming up in life when you had to do it on your own and you couldn't buckle, was from him. And the other side of it that he said, when he first saw Mom, he said, that's my red, I'm going to marry her. He told us that one time. He said, that's my red, when she walked into that dance hall and knew that was going to be his bride. So most of you here are because of that statement, that love, that faithfulness that they had, that you're here tonight. So remember them in your prayers every night. They're awesome people.
Thank you, John. The meaning of what's been meaningful to you as part of this family?
I look in the wall behind me, and this is my statement. In this room, one thing is common: intelligence and enriching the lives of others. That's what I see in the family. Of course, it's not like obviously a few of that. And these people on the wall behind me, their stories, the love, etc., what they did with their lives. I could talk about Artie and what he's been. Anyway, I would say intelligence and enriching the lives of others.
I think I have to speak to the capacity of love that a single human being can have, or as a couple, what your union means. And I remember when Dad was living at my house. He was in his 90s. He was getting a little frail and having a hard time getting around. And he was staying with us, and we'd talk. Lots of nights we'd just sit and have recollections. And the one thing that struck me more than anything else was he talked about a baby that he and my mother had lost. The baby was born in between Doris and I. a little boy, and he was full term, and apparently was born with a cord wrapped around his neck, and did not survive. And after 65 years, my father sat and wept and talked about this baby, and it just made me realize the capacity in his heart that no matter how many times he would have another baby or another family member or an aunt or an uncle or whatever, he had the capacity to welcome that person into his heart, as did my mother. And it's a lesson for all of us that, you know, you need to put love first. That's the most important thing, and that's obvious in this room tonight. So that's.
Well, I certainly have enjoyed all these fantastic stories, but they're all true. That's the amazing part about this, and we're still here to tell them. So, I thank God. I thank our parents. I thank my brothers and sisters who took care of me and helped raise me up and taught me a lot of things about life. I think it was a great upbringing, even though I didn't have my own bed. But nevertheless.
Have you ever had your own bed in your life?
Not yet. I did get the hammock one night. That was good. So, anyway, I just saw immense. It's a miracle in a way to be here with all my loving nieces, nephews, friends, and family. It's just wonderful to see how you've all been raised and what your lives have become and how things pass down to one another, how you all love one another and relate to each other. It's just miraculous to me. I get goosebumps just looking at all your faces and seeing my mom and dad pass so much on to all of us, even though they didn't write a will or any intention of doing this, but
they managed.
They managed. So anyway, keep smiling, folks. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much for everything.
I have nothing more to say.
We have cake because somebody in our midst is turning 80 on October 14th, a birthday she shares with Kurt. And another one of our, my beautiful cousins, is turning 60 this year. And Flan Joyce, who can't be here tonight, is also celebrating her birthday as well. And hold on, is he still here? Where is Sarah Wade? Her son's 15th birthday is tomorrow, he told me. So happy birthday to him. Who else has a birthday? Because we're going to put it. Oh, that's October. We're not going to talk about that. Okay. Oh, okay. Kathy? Oh, Olivia. And Olivia to have a baby. Oh, those are the best. Oh, Jess, the 23rd of September. Okay, so on, there's what happened? Oh, jeez. Okay, hey, it's Debbie. Hey, Debbie, how are you? Okay, what do you got? We'll have cake about it.
There's another occasion I heard that we're celebrating this month. Something to do with your mom?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Debbie. We'll go back and forth on this one. Thank you. So, Debbie reminded me, and Kathy reminded me, and I forgot, but hey, my mom and dad, on Jeff's birthday, 23rd of September, are celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. And with that,
but on that day, 60 years ago, this box was placed in my mother Marion's freezer, and we all know that she's the queen of the freezer.
True. Listen.
And it's been lovingly encased in a protective layer of ice for 60 years. And here it is. I present to you a piece of your wedding cake.
Wow, put your hands together for the piece of wedding cake.
Eat it!
No, don't eat it. That's a miracle. That's miraculous. That's beautiful. Oh. Okay. That's great. Thank you, Aunt Mary. Thank you for doing that. Okay, no embarrassing. Okay, hey, all right, so we're going from weddings to birthdays to anniversaries, and with that, as I see Heather making her way over to the cake, she is going to start and lead us in happy birthday. So Heather, on a 1, and a 2, and a 3.
Happy birthday.